Welcome to another episode of Mama's Blogging for Biz and Bliss. Always get mixed up what comes first, the biz or the bliss. Sometimes it alternates. So welcome to the show. And today we have the beautiful Alexandra Hughes from Calm Joyful Mom, who's going to speak with us today about how to keep the calm with all the blogging going on. And I'm so excited to have you on the show today, Alex.
I'm super excited too. This is going to be so much fun.
I have a good feeling. I got a good nose for fun coming up, and it's just going beep, 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 beep. Yeah, it's going to be a good one. So just your introduction. She shares with us here her bio that she's a mom to three, a life coach, and a business owner, and house and family CEO, FEO. Ooh, FEO even. Awesome. And manager for 5. She's passionate about helping busy moms navigate the mess and stress of motherhood, to find calm in the chaos, to create lives they love and that love them back so they can thrive versus survive. Oh my God. Okay, I'm reading here. I don't know if I knew this about you, but she wrote here tidbits about herself. She's Canadian who was born in Lima, Peru. Have we talked about this? Like my mom's.
I don't think.
Oh, okay.
No,
cool.
I don't know if you know the nitty gritty. No.
Okay. Well, my mom's from Peru, hey, and so I grew
really.
Up, yeah. Are you Peruvian?
Well, I don't have a passport anymore, but yeah.
Like your mom or dad's Peruvian? Oh my God, dude, I'm half Peruvian too.
Yeah. Well, okay, so my mom was born in Bolivia, but raised in Peru. And she met my father in Peru. They lived in Peru. I was born in Peru. I've got family in Peru. I was mostly raised in Ottawa, Canada, which makes me significantly less exotic, but
you're hilarious.
I have roots there.
Dude,
yes,
man. That's so trippy. My mom was born and raised in Peru. She met my dad in Peru, who's from Hungary. He had a 2-year contract there. He's a pilot. And then I was born in Montreal, though, and I was raised in Montreal.
Okay.
Weird, hey?
That is so funny. Yeah.
Cool.
So my mom fell in love with a Canadian. Your mom fell in love with a Hungarian.
Crazy Hungarian, yeah. I always say I'm half Peruvian, half Hungarian, so I'm half crazy and half crazy.
Yeah, 50-50.
That is so, okay, we got to talk Peru after. Have you taken your kids to Peru yet?
No, have you?
No. And I'm kind of like, I'm feeling like, ooh, because my grandma, she's getting
old.
Where?
In Lima?
Oh, yeah. 2 hours south of Lima, Cañete, San Vicente. So I grew up, we spent a lot of Christmases, and my mom goes back every year still for Christmas.
Wow.
Oh my God. Okay. We'll talk about Peru later.
Cut this out. But that's awesome.
I know. I got goosebumps because Peru is pretty amazing, special place, I think. Yeah.
It's kind of a little bit magical, actually. It's got so much history and culture and diversity and every kind of sort of
such warmth. The people there are just so like, I always tell my friends, you go to Peru, you never say, oh, I like your necklace. It's always like, oh, here, take it. It's yours. I'm like, no, I'm just complimenting you. Yeah, this is such a warm, generous people there.
Yeah.
All right. So speaking about warmth and generosity, I am going to milk you for all the calm tips you got from my mamas out there who love to blog. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your story of how you came to be life coaching and how you specialize with mom's calmness factors.
Yeah. So as with many of us entrepreneurs, my passion and what I do today is really all about me. It's all about my story.
I always say that too.
All about my pain and how I can turn that around and use that to help other people so that they don't have to go through all the shit that I went through, right? So here's the story of the shit that I went through.
Yes.
To get me here. So I've got 3 kids and we have done 2 international moves. I don't even think I can count the number of houses we've lived in. We've moved a lot. So there's been a lot of stress, but just to give you an idea of how stressy the initial experience of motherhood was for me, we chose to adopt when we were living in Southern Africa in Mozambique. And my wonderful daughter, who is now 12, we adopted her when she was 2.5. And 10 days after we got the paperwork, I found out I was pregnant. So 9 months later, I had a toddler who had been in a Mozambican institution for the first 2.5 years of her life, and a newborn. And, you know, my philosophy going into motherhood was like, you just strap them on your back and keep on going. You know, that was, and that didn't quite work out as I had envisioned. 5 weeks after my birth boy was born, we moved because my husband was offered a job in the UK. So we went from Mozambique, where we'd had perfect weather, help in the house, 2 incomes, no kids, to the UK, crappy weather. We did have friends there, but no help in the house, no family, 1 academic income. And because I chose at that point to be with the kids, Mia really needed me. I think they both did. And I just remember that moment when we landed and I was surrounded by boxes with 1 toddler running around and a baby on my boob, and my husband at the door looking very concerned. I'm off to work. And I remember thinking, oh my God, like, what's just happened to my life? You know, how am I going to do this? And it was really, really hard. And I reached out to the books and the online platforms and the few friends that I had, and I kind of muddled my way through it. And eventually, as we ran out of savings, I decided I had to go back to work. I found that the stay-at-home experience was really, really hard. Emotionally, really, really heavy. I just wasn't prepared. I really wasn't prepared for it all. I felt in many ways isolated. It was quite a struggle. And so I thought going back to work is going to be the solution. But then, of course, you're living this crazy hamster wheel life where when you're at home, you wish you were, you know, you're thinking about work. Maybe you don't wish you were at work, but you're thinking about all that stuff that you're supposed to do for work. When you're at work, you're worried about the kids and feeling super guilty about that, you know, and everything. Because I got into this cycle. It's like, I call it like the automatic pilot hamster wheel cycle, where you're just going, ticking boxes, and your days start to look like, well, box ticking exercises. And you're not, and I became so stressed out that I wasn't connecting with my kids. So I was coming home, you know, on the box ticking list was, you know, feed them, clean them, put them to bed, finish work report, or finish up that email, or whatever, go to bed, start all over again, get them out. No. They just started being tasks and not humans anymore. And I didn't really come to the awakening of that until, surprise, surprise, I found out I was pregnant with number 3. And I was like, I think I was in a state of shock. My poor husband was like hemorrhaging. I mean, it was really, we were not ready. We could barely do it with 2. You know? I mean, it was, so anyway, when baby number 3 came along, we were still in the UK, and I had a very generous maternity leave. And so, like in Canada, unlike where I am now, right now I'm in Washington, D.C. So maternity leave is horrible here, but I was very lucky. And at the same time, they were going through some restructuring at work. So it all worked out because I call baby number 3 my light bulb moment baby, because he really, during that maternity leave, I realized that, you know, I had completely disconnected from my children. I was disconnected from myself. I was disconnected from the moments of motherhood, you know, and I was missing out. I was missing out on them. They were missing out on me. And it was really a beautiful, beautiful time for me to get to know them, simultaneous with my life coaching training. So I had but I had a significant training allowance that I hadn't used up because I was so busy going all the time. And my work paid for my coaching training while I was on maternity leave.
Wow.
So it worked out really, really well. And then, of course, what was I passionate about? I was passionate about reaching out to moms and helping them find themselves again after, you know, going on maternity leave, or if they're finding themselves super stressed. And so that's where my coaching practice was born. It was originally called In Essence because it was all about helping mothers connect with their essence again. When I moved to DC 3 years ago from the UK, I did, I really wanted to make sure that what I was offering was tuned into what mothers needed here. And so what I did was a bunch of, focal group discussions and interviews, essentially market research, but I didn't call it that because that's just not the way my brain works. I just was reaching out and trying to get to know people and get to know what the challenges were. And I realized that mothers couldn't connect with themselves because they were so stressed out here. There was an intensity to the lifestyle here. And a lot more moms were working moms here. So I changed my branding a little bit, and I call myself, or the website, calmjoyfulmom.com. I realize it's a website, or it's a name that kind of invites where I want to be as opposed to where I feel some of the time. But it does reflect a journey for me in that I used to be disconnected, quite hot-headed, like very fast, very impatient, very fast to react, very impatient. The empathy wasn't the first place that I would naturally go as a mom. I was the most chilled out person previous, even though I was kind of type A and stuff. I was pretty chilled out, but you don't realize how quickly you can be set off after having, I think it's the second kid. And of course I had the second kid 6 months after I adopted the first. So everything was really, without knowing what I was getting into. So I think that combination of like perfectionism, wanting to achieve, maybe a little bit of control freak, tendencies, all of that combined with motherhood make for a really rough ride. And I had experienced that ride, and I wanted to help. And I saw a lot of those type A achievement-oriented people around me when I arrived in DC. And so I really thought, okay, awesome. So, I'm here now. I've been there, I can help. And so what was your question?
No, like I told you, this is awesome. And what was just your story? And this is explaining it beautifully. So many touch points that I would love to dig into a bit deeper, but I echo your observation that the second child syndrome, because I always say same thing before having kids. Yeah, I was like crazy laid back, if you can imagine. Like, it was like literally skipping through fields of daisies, because we had 7 acres and 2 acres of them was just a field of daisies. When I was just like, and then when I became pregnant with my second, well, I don't know, I think there's a lot of factors, like you start to observe, like there is the check mark, but it's also about finding the balance between seeing it as a check mark, but also seeing it as a fluid, organic rhythm to the day, that is there to support us, and, breathing in and out. But when that gets, under too much stress, it turns into the rigid check marking, which turns into like, anything feels like it's out of your control.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happened when I became pregnant with my second son, just when I was pregnant. And we lived in a little teeny tiny town in the middle of nowhere at the time. And we were so excited because like the local restaurant announced they're going to have movie night Tuesdays. We're going to push some tables to the side and we're going to like play a movie. And I was like, ooh, we should get a babysitter for Edie and go watch a movie and celebrate, this new life that we're bringing into this world. So this little town is like the conspiracy capital of North America, conspiracy theory capital. And of course they played this conspiracy movie that was so scary. The future of the world. And it just like, it seemed, we drove home, like a 5-minute drive back to our place, and the whole time my teeth were chattering. And then from that moment on, it just like set the tone for this low grade anxiety. And like you were saying, like fear of control, fear of the future, and this worry. And so I hear you. And it's all about, just relinquishing control, and just focus on, just breathing. I'm reading Love Warrior right now. And and it's just that I'm just almost winding up. What's her name? Glennon Melton Doyle. Yeah. And just at the last part, you know, same thing, her journey, her struggles, and then finally the epiphany, coming back to the breath, breathe through it. And I'm just like, oh my God. So calm and joyful. Breathe back to the calm and joy.
Yeah. Breathe back into the here and now, like into breathing into your breath is breathing into the moment, and it's breathing into your body. And I think we live a lot of our, you know, our mind. When I talk about monkey mind with my clients, I talk about, you know, either worrying that you did it wrong in the past, or feeling worried about what's going to happen in the future. But there's, you know, it really takes work to breathe in and be in the now. And I think, you know, nobody's perfect, but as much as you can, being present with your children, and they provide so many opportunities, and watching them is a huge learning opportunity as well, because kids are great at being present. So, you know, breathing into the presence, breathing into the now, and that brings so much connection. And every day I evolve into a different mother. And with, you know, the work of Glennon Doyle and all these other wonderful sort of inspiring women, I just feel like, I don't know, you know, being a mother and drawing upon all these lessons, you can really connect, deepen your connections with yourself, with your children, with the world around you. It's a special time. It's a crazy time.
Yeah.
It's a special time.
Yeah. So precious. Oh my God. Okay. So do you have some tips you can share for our mamas out there? A lot of our listeners, you know, the podcast is called Mama's Blogging for Biz and Bliss.
Yeah.
So maybe some tips of keeping the calm when, you know, so blogging, obviously, it started off for me, and I'm sure for a lot of the listeners out there, as this creative pursuit that's just so rich and so many levels, and such an opportunity to, you know, document this journey. Maybe not motherhood, perhaps it's an artistic journey, or professional, or you know, some kind of expressive journey. And so yeah, there's this kind of like chomping at the bit. So it is important to really, you know, bring ourselves, you know, to the mat, the blogging mat, if you will. But like you were saying, you know, these little munchkins, they are needing us to be present with them. Do you have some tips?
Yeah. So I blog for different reasons. I mean, I blog to offer tips and strategies, so to kind of educate and to normalize the challenges. I feel like a lot of mothers saying that it's hard, saying that I'm going through a really hard time, or that I had a really bad day, or that I yelled at my kid, or that I felt like, you know, crying in a closet, that's all really taboo. So I work really hard to normalize all of that, and I write about it. So I do it for other people. You know, I always try to either inspire or educate, connect in some way, and be really authentic, and I'll get into that. But I also blog for myself, because I find it therapeutic, and it's a creative outlet. But how do you do it with little people, you know? And so I took some time before we got on our call today, and I started thinking, well, what are, you know, lots of moving pieces when you own a business. You need to really, with coaching and any kind of sort of intimate support that you offer people, you really need to be present. So it can be energy zapping. And I love that. But how do you kind of make the blogging happen, and how do you make it happen in a certain way where it feels like it is that creative outlet, you know, where it is that, and where it inspires? So it takes kind of all those boxes. I think the first thing that is a major challenge is the clarity of mind. Finding clarity of mind when there's just a lot to think about. You know, you're thinking about the worlds of, depending on how old your kids are, you're thinking about kind of the, you know, the their it could be their basic needs to just maybe then when they get older, their social worlds, or how they're feeling about themselves, more conscious little beings, you know. So there's just, and then there's, you know, like, you read, you know, like I'm the primary parent. I manage the house. I manage the finances. I do all
Wow.
of that sort of stuff. This is not my forte. You know, this is something I've had to learn. My husband travels a lot. So, you know, with all of that stuff going on in your mind, how do you find the clarity of mind to really sit down, hone and focus and write? You know, and I think that the answer to this, and you know, I even almost myself cringe, is just to take care of yourself, because everybody says it, and you know, we've heard it all before. Self-care, you know, make sure you take the time to, and we can just start with the basics, to get enough rest. If you're not sleeping enough, your mind isn't, you're not going to be sort of awake when you need to be awake. And you know, drink enough water. They say productivity. You know, make sure you're feeding yourself well. Make sure you're moving your body. Make sure you're connecting with nature. You know, whatever turns you on, whatever nourishes your soul, get a little bit of that in. And I'm not talking about sitting in lotus at 5:30 in the morning for an hour. That does not work for a lot of moms. For some, maybe they can make it happen.
It makes me feel sleepy just thinking of that.
Yeah, exactly. And some people get pissed off when I when it's suggested. So, but there are other ways of doing it. Make your walk to school or your walk back from school a mindfulness practice. You know, take 5 minutes in, or make your shower a mindfulness practice or an intention setting practice. You know, make your blog a mindful journal. You know, or like a stream of consciousness, or maybe you don't even have to publish it. Maybe you can just journal on the side. You know, like there are lots of things that you can do to take care of yourself. And I think that for me, the meditation, the actual sitting and doing nothing and breathing into that, so that formal practice of mindfulness is super, super important to me. And I think that that has made an enormous difference in my life. For some people, like my husband, going swimming every morning is his mindfulness practice. Yoga, mindful movement, that's what works for me. But everybody has to find their own. And whatever it is that clears your mind, walk in the woods, whatever, you know, that I invite that into your life, so that it's amazing the difference it will make in your own writing and in your own ability to feel inspired, find the ideas. You know, what often happens to me is I'm going through the day and I think, oh my God, that's such a brilliant blog idea. That is the most brilliant blog idea. And I can't get away at that moment. Maybe I'm driving a kid somewhere. Maybe I'm like making a meal. Maybe I'm doing 3 things, you know, simultaneously. And then the idea goes. So having that space and time to just kind of be clear, the idea will come back. Or maybe you can just plug it into your phone and go back to it. But as long as you've got sort of the headspace.
I like that idea, to reframe it. The idea will come back. Because I got my first cell phone ever, like about 4 months now. And that's when all the good ideas come. I was going to say, for me, my thing is my dog. I take him for a couple of walks a day, and that's my grounding time. And same thing, you know, going to the forest really helps my fear factor. I call it. Yeah. It's just this old reframe. I feel like, it charges me up, and it reminds me I'm protected. You know, there's benevolent force in the world, and da.
Yeah.
But and I love cross country skiing with my dog, and
awesome.
I get all these awesome ideas. So with my phone, I'm like, oh great. So I have these awesome ideas. So I figured out the voice memo on my phone.
Yeah.
But you know, it's just, I think I'm just going to let go of that, because I find it really kind of disrupts the whole, because then I have to stop and my ski poles are flying, and I feel like kind of embarrassed. I'm like looking around like, okay, blog post idea. And then when I say it, I sound like such a creep when I hear the recording. So anyway, I think I might just like, okay, I'll come back, release it. Trust me.
And you can trust you can trust the universe that idea is going to come back, or an even better idea is going to come back, or you can just put the idea in and maybe it will prompt you later on. Like,
Thank you. I'm going to do that. Yeah. The novelty is starting to wear out.
I have like dictated entire blog posts walking down the street, like, and I talk about stuff like when shit hits the fan at dinner time, I talk about that stuff. So talking about that stuff. You got it. But you know, I mean, you got to do what works for you. If it feels funny, then it's not right.
Yeah, I think it feels funny. I think I'm gonna stop that right now.
Your
Thank
pools
you.
all over
Yeah,
the place. I love
like, yelling at my dog. Hey, dog, come back here. He's like eating garbage. I'm like, hear myself screaming a couple hours later.
And then, you know, there also, you know, you can ask for support. Like there have been times, for instance, where I've felt inspired, and I'm a very I don't know if the word is auditory or oral person too. I learn by listening, and I think I learn by talking, and express myself by talking a lot of the time. So I have actually sort of dictated blogs in and asked my my assistant, my VA, to sort of draft them out and send them back to me. Mm-hmm. You know, when I'm pressed for time, I've done that. So I've asked for help, and then I fix it up and change it, and no. So that typing time. So the expression, the creative expression happens in a different way and sometimes at a different time, but it works. You know, I mean, you got to do what works. And I think, so this is the second sort of tip, which is around finding time and space and quality time and space. And this is really hard, I think. I'm the first to admit that, you know, when my kids were little and I was doing this, so now my kids are 6, 9, and 12. They're all in school. Mm-hmm. But before they were all in school, and sometimes I'd have a babysitter. Sometimes it would be about nap time, right? Or evenings, you know. But what I do think is important is if and when you can, to create boundaries around this time. And if and when you can, it can be a sacred time. And it can be the walk or the cross-country ski in the woods with your, you know, your headset on and your microphone. That it can be that. Or, you know, if it needs to be in the same place at the same time. I'm the kind of person that really does well with routine. So if it's the same place, same time, try to optimize that it's a time when your brain is fresh, if you can. Again, you know, try have the boundaries and the structure to work for you, but keep the flexibility in the back pocket. You know, keep the flexibility, like you were talking about when we first started, you know, staying flexible to the ebbs and flows. A kid's going to be sick one day. Yeah. Shit happens, you know, or you're going to be in the middle of this really fantastic, you know, blog, and a child's going to come in and need you for something, or they're going to start a wrestling match in front of you, or, you know, like these things, they happen. And so I say, you know, having the structure and the boundaries that support you with the flexibility in your back pocket, and being able to kind of breathe into the transition. So like, I can't remember what blog post it is, but there's one where I talk about, you know, being, you know, you're meditating, and then a kid comes and interrupts you. And I have done this before, and I've been like, get lost, I'm meditating. You know, I'm trying to find my inner peace, like, get out of here. You know, and the key to the meditation is, of course, to learn how to, like, take your breath into the interaction with your child and interact mindfully with your child. This is not easy. This is not an easy practice. It's an
ongoing yoga practice. Actually, I wrote that in one of my first ebooks, how before I had kids, I was an Ashtanga yoga teacher, and I used to teach yoga at the park when we lived in Calgary at Princess Island Park there. And there was a lot of homeless people who would just like hang out, and once they were like kind of catcalling to us, like when everybody was in downward dog.
Oh man.
And I would just say, you know, okay, you guys, this is part of the yoga practice, you know, let the ujjayi breath be louder than that guy saying, hey, baby, why don't you hold that for a few more, you know, like whatever. And then in this ebook I wrote after I became a mom, I said something like, it's like the parenting journey. It's like a yoga practice that goes on forever. And your kids are like these drunk homeless people that keep like showing up.
Like, they're the cat callers.
Yes. Mama.
They're the constant interrupters, like interruptitis. You know, we were not trained to be subjected to interruptitis, and it happens. So
and paying attention to what works. Yeah, what works. Just on that note, what works for me? It's so funny. I don't know if I even said this out loud before, because I'm not sure how it's going to sound, but I know I think of it when I speak to experts like you, like about this stuff. It's that what helps me push through and be in the moment. This is going to sound weird. Like you were saying, you're like, you know, in your meditation, the kid comes in, you're like, I'm busy meditating. Just that, for me, the guilt I feel after, I feel like instantly, I'm just like, oh, I feel so bad. And I use that energy like the next day or later in the day to make me be more present. I guess it's the guilt. Is that normal?
Yeah, I mean, mom guilt is normal all over the place.
But it helps
and
me to be a better mom. Yeah.
Exactly. You can teach, you know, you can, any kind of outburst or hothead moment is an opportunity for reconnecting and an opportunity for learning. So that happens, you know, you tell your kid to shove off or whatever, and then you can say, hey, you know, I what was happening wasn't what I thought should have happened. I call that shoulditis. You know, sometimes we get so frustrated when things would happen the way we think they should happen. And so this is what happened in my body, and this is how I reacted, and I'm sorry, and it's wrong. And does that ever happen to you? And you know, it's teaching emotional intelligence. It's teaching mindfulness. You know, it's really, so that's wonderful. And and guilt or anger or any frustration, all of those, they're messengers. So the key is to hear the message. Not let the message come into your house and take you over. Let the messenger come to the door, open the door. Thanks for coming. I hear your message. And then, you know, follow through. Follow through. So guilt does have its purpose. All of these crazy feelings have their purpose.
That's funny.
It's just about, listening in and tuning in, listening in, and stepping up and owning it and using it as a learning opportunity.
Oh, yes, there have been many, but it gets better and better and easier.
It totally does get better.
Collect the tools and reminders. Honey, I think we have to have you come back for part 2 because I feel this is going like way too fast. But we have to wrap it up in the next 5 minutes. So do you have like a parting message or opportunity or anything?
I guess really it is all about, you know, taking care of yourself and creating those spaces and those times and boundaries with the flexibility in the back pocket so that you are in touch with yourself. You can be real. You can kind of connect authentically. That was my third point, really, was like, you have to be kind of tuned into yourself to connect authentically. And that's not always hard, not always easy. In fact, very hard when you're a busy business blogging mom.
Yes.
You know? So all of that is really, really difficult. I offer, since you're giving me the chance to say, I offer something called right now it's called the Clear Mind Present Mama Challenge. And it's a 5-day challenge that helps you to find that clarity of mind so that you can be more present in everything that you do. So not only about being present with the kids, but also being present in your blogging, being present in your relationship with your partner, being present when you're cooking, you know, really kind of living life and being in that moment, being alive in that moment. And so that is something that I can share the link with you, and we are going to be running that. Gosh, I should know this. In end of March is when we're going to be running it. But people could get on the waiting list as early as now, or they could, join in end of March. But I'll send you the link for that, Kathy.
Yes, and we'll have that link if you're listening at blissbeyondnaptime.com, or if you're watching the video version of this. You can find the link at the same place or below the video here on YouTube.
Awesome. I really hope, I know we didn't get through everything, but I really hope that what we did get through is of help to your
Absolutely.
community.
I know it helped me. It was great reminders of this journey, and that, we got some tools here, and then we can go catch your challenge to really, integrate it a bit deeper. And like, I'm serious, I'd love to have you back on again so we can take it to another level.
It was so much fun. And I do think that blogging, any type of writing, creative outlet is fundamental for these creative entrepreneurial types that you and I are,
Totally.
so creating the time for that, guilt-free.
Totally. No, we're modeling some beauty there to our kiddos to go for our dreams and express ourselves. And Alex, so where can we find you?
So you can find me at calmjoyfulmom.com/blog. That's where I'd like you to come and look so you can see some of my blogs. And yeah, get some tips and strategies. I've got a great Calm Mom toolkit for moms there too that's free.
Cool.
You can sign up for that.
Great. And the challenge, which we will have the link to at Bliss Beyond That Time with Alex's show notes. Thanks, Han. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you, lovely, for having me. Oh.